Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fresh Wave Podcast. This podcast is for youth, by youth,
and Johnny.
And today is Season 4, Episode 9, and we're talking about discerning types of friendships. Hope you have a great week and enjoy this episode.
Hey, this is all good stuff, but hey, this is so good to be here on the Fresh Wave Podcast.
So good.
With Maddie and Olivia, and we're here talking about friends. We got some, we lose some, we'll make new ones. We have seasons of friends, and we move into a new season, so we make new friends. A never-ending path where we welcome people, we lose people, we have some people by our side throughout the whole thing. So it's important to talk about who those people are from a variety of places, from school, family, sports, random people following you on social media, and everywhere in between. But good thing to talk about because I'm sure we have all different kinds of friendships. And today we're going to talk about some of those different ones, the importances of a lot of different kinds, and how do we navigate those.
Yeah. We search a lot for a Christian community. Of course, we know that's very important, surrounding ourselves with holy people like ourselves. But it is also very important to have non-Christian friends. So I guess you'd say like secular friends, worldly friends, people who are non-religious or don't follow the same beliefs we do. And it's important for these friendships to evolve, because if we block out all fellowship of secular friends, we lose that almost like margin for evangelism. We lose that space to show them that we have a love for Christ and also a love for them, and that's where it stems from. So the importance of being intentional in these relationships and also knowing where to draw boundaries and knowing how to put purpose into these friendships.
I think as a believer, we always have to, like, we're always questioning, like, how do we approach, like, having secular friends? And I think there's the main thing that I think you have to focus on is the fact that as a believer, you have to understand that not only are your friends also, you're made in the image of God, but also your friends are. And we can't forget that even if they don't believe it themselves, like, that's the truth. And I think some people, like, question if maybe I should have secular friends, like, at all. Like, maybe should all my friends be Christian? And I don't think that's the right approach, because there's always room to evangelize, like, and I think friends is a really great way to, it's a really great topic.
Yeah. I always remind myself it's so important to love and care for your friends and show empathy to them, and who knows if they have people who are praying for them or listening to them, and we can be those people to bring that like Christ's love in their life. Yeah. Genuinely enjoying their company, I think, is definitely different from enjoying their worldliness. We can, love them and care for them, but make sure our holy standards aren't changing. Like, we are not becoming insensitive to maybe certain sins that we're being around them, whether it's language or the things we're watching or any of that. We don't want to normalize that. And we don't want to engage more with them just because we desire to be more of a worldly Christian. Which is something I think I faced when I was searching so much for Christian community and had worldly friends, and I realized maybe sometimes I was enjoying certain people's worldliness, and I like to just conform to their lifestyle and just feel like less judged for behaviors or patterns that I needed to actually weed out of my life, and habits that I needed to change.
Yeah, I think it's a hard topic, especially when you're in, you find yourself in the middle school, high school, college years. When you have maybe parents speaking into who you're friends with, don't hang out with people that are going to make you do bad things, or a saying is like bad company ruins good morals or something like that. Or another one I hear is like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future type of thing. And a lot of that stuff has some validity to it, and I don't want to disregard that. But I do think there is an aspect of, Christ calls us out to go and make disciples. Christ goes and calls us out to preach the gospel. And I don't want to only preach the gospel to people that already know the gospel. I want to preach the gospel to people that don't. And I think it's hard to navigate certain friendships because you don't want to, I think maybe kind of what you're touching a little bit on is you don't want to start falling into this sin that maybe they're doing. So maybe you kind of have to come up with boundaries. Like, all right, I'm not going to hang out with you guys Friday night. because I know what you do Friday night. But
Yeah.
maybe I'll go to Starbucks with you Tuesday afternoon. You know,
Yeah.
or we'll
Yeah.
text, or we'll do certain things together. But I'm not gonna do everything with you. So I think as you navigate certain friendships, you maybe can still remain friends, but have certain things that you do and don't do with them.
Yeah.
Right.
I think in a godly walk with God, you're always going to have things that test your faith. And maybe your friends might be an aspect of that, but obviously setting boundaries is the most important thing. If Even if you have people around you that do certain things that maybe you don't personally agree with, if you don't let that affect your life and your decisions and what you decide to do with your life, I think that's completely okay to have any friends that like have other beliefs, but also realize that this can be an opportunity for you to like show them what you believe and stuff like that.
Yeah, you might be the only Bible they read.
Yeah.
You know, so thinking through that, so you want to be in their life in some capacity so they can see that.
Right. A good question I always ask myself if, like, I kind of find myself wondering about a certain worldly friend. I ask myself who's transforming whom. So is it my influence that's flowing out of me, or is it their influence that's coming onto me? I want to be more of the person who's, like, of course, set apart and show them that this is who I am, and it should be reflected onto them, not it's like dimming my light and just starting to normalize habits that I've made, like sinful habits. And I want to express how like that joy and peace comes from Christ, and I want them to know that and know where it flows from. And I think something I get a lot is like, oh, how are you so, I mean, I'm sure people get this question all the time for Christians, but like, how are you so like happy all the time? Or some of those questions, like, how are you so joyful and just like have that love? But your friends shouldn't have to wonder. Like, your friends shouldn't have to question you where it's coming from, and that should be something that they know from the start, and know that that's where you're getting it from, and it's something that's so freely given to your friends. It's not conditional. And of course, like, Jesus did still like eat with sinners, but we don't know if he ever got invited back. Like, you don't know if he was saying things and evangelizing to them and, you know, showing them the love of Christ, and if they didn't want it, like, they might have rejected it, but they also might have accepted it. And so we shouldn't be afraid to be bold with the people we're sitting with and not keep it hidden. I'm sure Jesus did not keep it hidden when he was with these people. So just keeping that open and making sure that we should tell them and they shouldn't have to wonder about our love.
Yeah, I think people actually gain. I think one thing we're fearful of is if we do that, you know, people are going to think we're weird, cast us out, and like, you know, whatever. But I think people do gain some respect for you when they kind of see if you're grounded in your faith, grounded in what you believe, and not easily peer pressured. So I think people actually do recognize that. And I think you do develop some respect from some people. And I experienced that at high school. You know, I held my ground in my faith, and even though there's peer pressure and whatever, I think at the end of the day, people I think had respect, and I think we do still see that. Maybe not right away, you know. Maybe sometimes there's a year of testing where people are like, really, that's kind of lame and whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a few years depending who you're around, but I do think I've seen and heard stories of other people that would agree that they develop some kind of respect from others when they follow Jesus and they live it out.
I would say I'm very blessed to have friends, even though they might not all be believers. They've always been like respectful of what I've decided to do, or even Bella, like she's also my friend group. But I think something that I always think about is whenever like I need advice on a certain situation or something that I'm dealing with, I always wonder to myself if like they should be the ones I should be going to talk to, because obviously they don't have the same like morals or like beliefs that I do. So I don't know, that's something that I question a lot. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can.
Yeah. I think it does tend to depend. I think for certain situations, I find that I would get more wisdom and more advice from someone who is more wise in Christ than me, especially if it's a Christ-like conviction or a sin. I don't think that like worldly friends give bad advice. Like, I don't think that's, I think it's different if it's on something that's like morals or just goodness in general, and you just want advice from your friends. But honestly, the more I've gotten into Christian community, the more I've seen how helpful the advice from Christians can be, of course, because they're leading the same lifestyle as you. And and you want to stay on that path of holiness and make sure you're not just doing something because your friend just told you, just do it, just YOLO, and like all that stuff. So I always want to make sure I'm like almost fact checking their advice, just making sure that it's not coming from a place of just like engage in the world, do what you want, like that sort of thing, which I think sometimes advice can be rooted in that.
Yeah, I think it comes down to just how you view the world and how you view your life. And like you said, it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad advice. So let's say you're looking for advice in your career. A worldly friend might not give you bad advice, but that the advice is going to be based off of a completely different worldview than your friend that follows Jesus. Because from their worldview, they're just going to say, all right, well, let's look at your career. You should do this and this. That's probably all good stuff, and it might land you a good job. Right. But ultimately, for me, it's where do I want God want me to be, and who's going to speak that into you. So you do have to, like you said, kind of like decipher where things are coming from based off of what you believe and what the people are speaking into you. Because like you said, it might be very different from someone that's following the Lord versus someone that's not.
Yeah, especially if it's an area like what you said, like for work, you might want to ask someone who's more knowledgeable in the field that you're in, and that might be someone who is worldly. Same thing with like, you might not want to ask your Christian friend who does something completely different from you because they might not understand the issue as well. So I think it's all about balance. But Tim, did you have a verse? I see you looking up over there.
I see all these confused faces. I'm like, what?
It's interesting. I couldn't find it off the top of my head, but it's something interesting. So I'm actually walking through this with one of my friends now, kind of what you guys have been talking about. Like, we've been close friends for a very long time, and he's just going down a path that is just so, it's just not good. And we've kind of come to a reckoning in our friendship where I just basically told him, like, I'm not going to come to you with certain things because you're not going to be able to give me counsel of what I want. And I do agree to an extent about how, there's definitely some things like when it comes to career and other stuff like that, I think there's people that are valuable. But I think when it comes to matters of the heart, I think I would be very careful about who we go to for advice and counsel, because it says somewhere in Romans, I wasn't able to find it, how like when it comes down to the works and the morals that people do, like none of it's good if it's outside of Christ, right? So I think we have to be careful when we go to other people, for advice about certain things, especially matters of the heart and of the spirit.
Right, keeping those people with the same values and the same strive for goodness and holiness as you is definitely important. Keep ourselves grounded in that and not rooted in something that's unchanging, like Tim said, so.
Yeah, also another phrase I like is we are in the world, but we are not of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that encourages us to have a variety of friendships and a variety of people that we find ourselves with, because Christ has not called us to leave and isolate ourselves, but he has called us to go out into the world. And look at the disciples, right? After Jesus ascended back into heaven, they all scattered and went and preached the gospel everywhere they could. So I think that doesn't just apply to them, but to us as well.
So I wanted to leave us off on an invitation to sow seeds of God's love, and just a reminder of how when we sit with sinners, we should remind ourselves that we love them too much to enjoy the same things that sometimes they enjoy, but also use each moment with them with purpose as an opportunity to flow influence from yourself and give that influence and goodness to them.